Okay, so I'm going to very quickly get kickstarted with this case because I've been meaning to do it for quite a while, but then we had the bombshell of the settlement, and then everyone was like, "Oh, can you follow the Taylor Swift one?" It's like, okay, and I have to catch up with that. So, but here we are, finally. So this is the lawsuit that involves the NSYNC "Bye Bye Bye" dance sequence. Um, Darren Henson is saying, "Well, it's I, choreographed it. I put it all together. It belongs to me." And I'm inclined to agree with him. He has since copyrighted it as well, which has been backdated to 1999. I cannot believe it is 1999. Is it really that old? Wow. But anyway, so yeah. So he is seeking a declaratory relief, basically. So let's read through this. At the moment, it's Darren Henson against Sony Music Holdings and Does 1 through 10. It's a very short complaint as well, so won't take long. This has been brought in the Northern District of Georgia, Atlanta, federal court. Okay. Comes now Darren Henson, by and through his counsel of record, brings this action for declaratory judgment against Sony Music Holdings, Inc., doing business as Sony Music Entertainment, showing the court as follows. So, introduction. This action for declaratory relief is brought by plaintiff concerning original and award-winning choreography that he created in 1999 and that subsequently became associated with the musical work entitled Bye 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 by the recording artist professionally known collectively as NSYNC. Okay, I'm just making that a bit bigger. The Bye 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 dance is Henson's best and most iconic choreography, winning him the well-deserved and then prestigious recognition of the 2000 MTV Video Music Award for Best Choreography. Indeed, the work was so popular it is often cited as a staple of early 2000s pop culture. He's not wrong, it definitely is. A phenomenon that Henson has been profiting from since 1999, including with his first of its kind aerobic style dance instructional videos entitled Darren's Dance Moves that were originally released in 2001 and that sold over 3 million copies, earning him millions and making it one of the most successful dance videos of all time. Accordingly and relatedly, Henson has been publicly holding himself out as the sole owner of the work, unchallenged since its inception, and has relatedly referenced such ownership openly and notoriously in various public interviews throughout the years, including but not limited to within his documentary Darren's Dance Grooves, the untold Darren Henson story that premiered on ALL-BLK on April 20th, 2023. Despite the foregoing, SME, without Henson's knowledge, consent, or involvement, held themselves out as the owners of the work and licensed it for feature and use in the Marvel Studios 2024 film Deadpool and Wolverine, and then as an emote in the game Fortnite, and without any credit or compensation to Henson. Such licensing has resulted in whitewashing or erasure of all diversity associated with the work and its origins, and dilution of the market value Henson has created for himself. The work is now being wrongfully and unjustly affiliated with Marvel as the Deadpool dance. Additionally, Nick Pawley, who was hired to perform the work in the film, is profiting from Henson's work, and the creation of the same is now being falsely credited to Pawley. Seriously, people think that Nick Pawley created this dance. It's like it's older than Nick Pawley. Nick Pawley, by the way, is the guy who's obviously dressed as Deadpool, who performed the dance sequence in the opening credits to Deadpool and Wolverine, and definitely not the guy who created the dance. Henson has asserted his ownership against defendants as defined herein, and has attempted to reach an amicable resolution with them to no avail. Initially, despite knowledge of Henson's creation, SME outright refused to negotiate without evidence of copyright registration. After Henson successfully registered the work using the true creation date that predates the official music video owned by SME and provided defendants with notice of the same, defendants continued to dishonor Henson's ownership by asserting a lack of originality. The overall basis of SME's claim of ownership is that it owns the official music video that was released in 2000, 1 year after the work was created, and for which it did not register with the Copyright Office until 2001, and again in 2006. On both occasions, SME knowingly failed to disclaim any pre-existing copywritten or copyrightable work, including but not limited to the work that was simultaneously being widely marketed and profited from by Henson. SME likewise failed to disclose to the Copyright Office that the pre-existing work for which they were claiming ownership was not made pursuant to any written work made for hire agreement. The reality is that the work belongs to Henson, and to obtain full acknowledgement of his ownership and a complete transfer of all monies earned by SME and its licensees, the plaintiff must seek declaratory relief from the court that confirms plaintiff's unfettered exclusive right to exploit the work, free of the interference from and unjust enrichment of the defendants. Jurisdiction and venue. So this action is brought, and this court has subject matter jurisdiction pursuant to Title 28, USC sections 1331, 1338, and 2201. This court has federal question jurisdiction in this matter in that plaintiffs seek a declaration of rights under the Copyright Act of 1976, Title 17 USC Section 101. Venue lies within this court pursuant to Title 28 USC Sections 1391B1, B3, C2, D, and Section 1400A. In that, defendant SME is a Delaware profit corporation authorized to do business in Georgia with a registered agent in Gwinnett County, Georgia. The parties. Plaintiff choreographed the work, a multinational dance hit for the musical work Bye 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 that was first performed on October 28, 1999 at the first ever Radio Music Awards in Las Vegas, Nevada, that were pre-recorded and then distributed and aired live on the WB and its then local affiliate networks. Defendant SME is a wholly owned subsidiary and the global recorded music division of Sony Music Group and or Sony Corporation of America. It is a corporation that is organized and exists under the laws of Delaware and has been sued multiple times in Georgia, and that is in the business of music recording nationwide and in Georgia. It is the second largest of the big three record companies behind Universal Music Group and followed by Warner Music Group. Defendant Does 1 through 10 inclusive are sued herein under fictitious names. Their true names and capacities are unknown to plaintiff. When their true names and capacities are ascertained, plaintiff will amend this complaint by inserting their true names and capacities herein. On information and belief at all times material herein, each of the defendants was the agent and employee of some or all of the other defendants, and in doing the things hereinafter alleged, was acting within the course and scope of such agency and employment. The defendants are referred to collectively herein as defendants. Claim for declaratory relief. Henson was commissioned to create the work for NSYNC's first ever live performance of the musical work entitled Bye 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 in October of 1999, during a period where the band was engaged in highly public litigation with its manager and creator, Lou Pearlman. I remember that. But I remember it. Henson received a call from the band's then day-to-day manager, Johnny Wright, to develop the work for the band's performance of the unreleased musical work entitled Bye 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 at the first ever Radio Music Awards in Las Vegas, Nevada. Henson did not sign a work made for hire agreement prior to the creation of the work, and as such, by its creation alone, became the sole owner of the work. To date, he has not transferred said ownership to any third party. So, kind of just very quickly as well to clarify, when he's referring to a work made for hire agreement, and what that is, it's a legal contract that establishes that the commissioning party, as the owner of the intellectual property created by the contractor in this case, because of there was no agreement, then the creator then retains the intellectual property. Yeah, so this agreement would have removed the intellectual property rights from Darren Henson and given them over to, I'm guessing, Sony. But because there was no agreement, and that is what Henson is saying was, hold on a minute, you commissioned me, but you did not put this agreement in place. We did not sign it. Therefore, I retain the intellectual property rights over this dance. And I think he's right. Okay, yeah. So Henson subsequently flew to Las Vegas to teach the work to NSYNC, who later performed the same live on October 28th, 1999. That performance was pre-recorded and then later that day distributed and aired live on the WB and its affiliate networks. When Henson learned of the use of the work in Marvel Studios' film Deadpool and Wolverine in 2024, he immediately put the purported licensor, Sony SME, and its known licensees on notice of his ownership, and when presented with the need for a federal lawsuit for infringement, he registered his work with the United States Copyright Office, which granted him copyright registration. Henson filed an expedited copyright application, which was unfortunately severely delayed by one of the government shutdowns, and that covered the 1999 published version of the work, including but not limited to the specific elements attributable to the chorus section of the musical work Bye Bye Bye. The same exact elements were included within the Fortnite emote and the opening credits of Deadpool and Wolverine. Unlike SME, Henson properly disclaimed the pre-existing elements that were cut from the original footage that aired on WB and its affiliate networks in 1999, but he is still free to register the same should they ever require similar litigation. Henson has been actively conversing with SME, who represented that it was speaking for all of its licensees, since December 2025, after returning to the table following SME refusing to acknowledge Henson without evidence of copyright registration. To date, after 3 months, SME is still seeking internal approval of an amicable resolution. The defendants have agreed to toll the statute of limitation for the period of January 9th, 2026 to Monday, March 30th, 2026. Given the expiration of the agreed tolling period and the passage of time since the film's release, which is 1 year and 8 months, out of an abundance of caution and to reserve all rights, Henson believes it is time to proceed with his claims via this request for declaratory relief. There is an actual and justiciable controversy between plaintiff and defendants in that SME claims their copyright registrations, which do not properly disclaim any existing work, are superior to plaintiff's claim of ownership and or approved copyright registration, absent any written work for hire agreement or other applicable transfers of interests. Alternatively, defendants argue the work itself is not copyrightable despite their own alleged registrations and their recent profits from the work. The aforementioned arguments against plaintiff's interests are baseless and employed merely to deprive plaintiff of and or punish plaintiff for his attempt to protect his work from the defendant's further misappropriation. To Henson's knowledge, prior to the uses at issue, he has been the only one to profit solely from the performance of the factors attributable to the work as an independent property. For these reasons, a judicial declaration of the parties' respective rights and obligations with respect to the work is necessary and appropriate. Plaintiff seeks a judgment declaring A. Henson is the exclusive owner of the work, and B. The SME does not have an interest in the work sufficient to confer standing on them to pursue claims of ownership for the work. Prayer for relief. Wherefore, plaintiff respectfully requests judgment against defendants as follows. 1. A declaration that A. Henson is the exclusive owner of the work. B. SME does not have an interest in the work sufficient to confer standing on them to pursue claims of ownership for the work. 2. The imposition of a constructive trust to hold and transfer the monies earned from the defendant's wrongful exploitation of the work back to the plaintiff and as disgorgement of all ill-gotten monies to prevent their unjust enrichment at plaintiff's expense. 3. For costs and attorney's fees incurred herein, and 4. For such other and further relief as the court deems just and proper. Okay, so I want to see Sony's response. He's kind of given us a little bit of a taste of what they're arguing. They're saying, well, hold on, our registrations, are superior, so no, that's not necessarily the case, and it depends what they've actually registered, what purposes they've registered for. There's a lot more nuance. It's not as simple as, I show you my registration number and, you show me yours kind of thing. Or I see your registration number and show you my 2 registration numbers in this case, because SME have got 2 registration numbers. It's not as simple as that. And they're then saying, well, you can't really, earn anything from the work itself, which is clearly not true. Nick Pawley was paid to do the job. He earned something from it. And I don't see why a dance sequence could not be copyrighted in the same way that, song sequences, lyrics, and sequences of music, specific notes in musical sequences are copyrighted. You look at the whole case. I don't know how many people have read the case of the Robin Thicke lawsuit for Blurred Lines, which had some musical similarities to a Marvin Gaye song. We see these kind of lawsuits all the time, and it's literally over like a couple of notes. It's not even the full work, and people will sue and say, hold on, that sounds quite similar to my work. In this dance sequence though, right, apart from the bit where he grabbed his butt at the end, it was the entire exact step-for-step sequence. It was unmistakable. And Darren Henson's right. It was a staple of the early 2000s, the dance was. It has been a trend several times over on TikTok. And that was before the film. That was before Deadpool and Wolverine. It's an iconic dance. People recognize it and immediately know where, even without music and without NSYNC performing it, they know exactly where it's come from. And that is still true today, 27 years later, 27 years after it was created. So I agree with him. Like, it is in and of itself, it's so distinctive and iconic that it is profitable, and he has profited from it. He has made millions from that dance, and it's been unchallenged until this point. And if Sony believed they owned the rights, then why have they not said something and challenged him earlier on? And it's a different, like, there's a lot of elements, when there's a music video, you got the artists that perform the music, the people who write it, the songs, and then the people who write the music and edit the music and so on and so forth, the people who market it, distribute it, finance it, etc., etc. There's a lot of people involved, and copyrighting a music video is not the same as copyrighting a specific dance performance. So I need to see more, I think, from Sony to gauge kind of their arguments and what they're trying to show. this gives me a lot of information. Right now, I'm siding with Darren Henson, but I reserve the right to kind of change my mind if Sony come forward with something. However, it is it is so absurd that people are genuinely crediting Nick Pawley with creating this dance when it has been around. The dance has been around longer than he has. I've seen people credit Ryan Reynolds with it as well, just because he is Deadpool, and they call it the Deadpool dance. It is nothing to do with Ryan Reynolds, and I sincerely hope he becomes one of the does. This is just a statement, basically, a certificate of interested persons and corporate disclosure statement. I'm not going to go into it, but just there's a list here of potential persons of interest in this case, including entities that is Walt Disney Studios, Disney Entertainment, the Walt Disney Company, Epic Games Inc., Sony Music Entertainment, Marvel Studio, and Nick Pawley. And then the only other thing I want to look at is this. So this is the copyright registration numbers. So obviously we've got at the top here, that is Darren Henson's copyright registration for the choreography. And you've got then, these are the videos, these are motion pictures, they're the videos, right? They are the Sony Zomba recording, etc. But they are for bye, as in the music video. And you can tell that because the first one has got the director, and the director wouldn't need to copyright a dance sequence necessarily. But also the second one is motion pictures. So without seeing the actual details of the copyrights themselves, on the surface, this looks like there's a difference in what's being copyrighted here, in that the first one is specifically copyrighting the choreography, and that's Darren Henson. And the second two are specifically copyrighting the actual music video that went with NSYNC's, song, of Bye Bye Bye. And yes, they did perform the dance sequence in it, but as Darren Henson kind of points out, there was never any signed work made for hire agreement, which then means that the copyright did not transfer to whoever commissioned Darren Henson. Which, again, taking into account what's written in this complaint, it seems like that would be Sony. So I think that's going to complicate things. But I'll wait and see what Sony respond with.